It's finally here, the brand new album from Blink-182, and so much has happened since the band's last album. And we have to go even further back than that, where Blink broke up for the second time. Matt Skiba from Alkaline Trio came in, saved the day, and joined the band. They put out 2 albums, and they were really good or really bad, depending on who you ask. Then Mark Hoppus got sick, got better, the band reunited, and now after all of that, we have a brand new album from Blink-182, One More Time. I did want to focus and talk about the Matt Skiba era of Blink-182 just for a bit. I'm from Chicago, and it's no secret that I love Alkaline Trio. So when the news was announced that, hey, Matt Skiba is going to be joining Blink-182, I was pretty excited. I don't know how everybody else felt, but I thought this was a win all across the board. You get the distinct voice and lyrical ability of someone like Matt Skiba of Alkaline Trio joining one of the biggest bands, probably the biggest band in pop punk today, and even back then, obviously, when Matt joined the band in Blink-182. So I thought it was going to be a win-win for both sides. We got 2 albums in the Skiba era, California and 9, and I think the biggest disappointment or the biggest problem with both of these albums is that you had Blink-182 joining forces with Alkaline Trio, and it never felt like we got the perfect meshing of what those 2 bands would be. We got some songs that sounded more like Blink-182, some that more had a Alkaline Trio kind of a flavor, but we never got that perfect 50-50 split and got that one perfect song that combines Blink-182 and Alkaline Trio. In my opinion, California was definitely the more Blink-182 sounding album. That was the first album with Matt Skiba, so I can see how Blink wanted to slowly bring Matt into the fold, but keep that nostalgic pop-punk, fun-loving sound that Blink-182 is known for. And then with 9, I feel like that one is almost more Alkaline Trio inspired. It's a little bit more darker. It went kind of more of a dance poppy kind of a route, which admittedly was kind of weird. I wouldn't describe Alkaline Trio as a dance post-punk kind of a band, but those are my opinions on those 2 albums. I think California leaned way more Blink, and I think 9 leaned way more Alkaline Trio. And that's not to say that those albums were bad and had no, redeeming songs. I think there's great songs on both California and on 9, but like I was talking about earlier, we never got that perfect mix of Blink and Alkaline Trio. The closest we got, I think, was the second half of 9, where you get those songs Runaway, Pin the Grenade, Black Rain, No Heart to Speak Of. I feel like that's as close as we ever got to that perfect mesh of Blink-182 and Alkaline Trio. And I remember when 9 came out, I believe Mark Hoppus even tweeted or did something on Discord about, wow, that second half of 9, is really good, and everyone loves that. That's what the band was hearing. And I know 9 wasn't as successful as California, and maybe that's the reason that the band was apprehensive to really let Matt Skiba go all out. And I know all the band members have said there's a ton of songs that were on the cutting room floor of California and 9, so hopefully one day those will come to light. Maybe they're a little bit more raw and a little bit more, punk rock or rock and roll inspired, but like I said, that second half of 9 is as close as we got, in my opinion, to that perfect mix of Blink-182 and Alkaline Trio. Getting to the brand new album One More Time, the first song released from the album was Edging, and I know when people think of Blink-182, they think of the fun-loving, a lot of joke kind of stuff, but I would not have released this song first. This is your big comeback with Tom DeLonge rejoining the band, and I get it in a sense. It's kind of a fun, catchy, joke-filled song, the title and everything like that, but I really would not have released that song first. Listening to the whole album now I've had it for almost a week like everybody else has. Edging is a song I don't go back to at all. I didn't really like it when it was first released. You have that nostalgia of, oh wow, Blink is back, so you keep listening to the song because that's the only thing that we have. But now having all these other songs and tracks, I never really go back to Edging. I don't think it should have been the first song released, but I do understand why. I also find it super interesting just hearing what a big budget pop punk album sounds like in 2023. I've talked about it extensively on the channel already, that rock music isn't as popular as it once was, but there is sort of, I wouldn't call it a revival just yet, but definitely an uptick in the pop punk slash emo slash rock and roll world as far as it bleeding into the mainstream. Machine Gun Kelly, Demi Lovato, Olivia Rodrigo, of course, all releasing rock albums. You know, there's drums, guitars, it's catchy. We're finally having that back into the mainstream after all these years. And Blink, I think, is a huge part of that because they have the cachet of being around for so long, being, you know, once at the height of mainstream just music in general in the early 2000s, let alone just rock music. And they have the cachet, whether you like Blink or you don't, and you're a hardcore fan of, you know, pop punk and emo and stuff like that. We all know who Blink-182 is, even if you're not the biggest fan. So I did write that down in my notes. It's just interesting to hear what, you know, these producers, what these labels, what everyone puts into a pop punk album in 2023. There are definitely some standouts on One More Time. Anthem Part 3, I think, is a great song and probably would have been my choice for the first song released from this album. You have the nostalgia of obviously being the third part in the Anthem series, and I think it might be the best out of the three. I don't know if that's a hot take. You hear those Tom DeLonge vocals and you immediately get transported back to that nostalgic time of the early 2000s. This album, One More Time, has a lot of the different eras of Blink-182 in one album. You have, you know, the pop punk kind of stuff with the Anthem Part 3. We have an old Boxcar Racer song in Terrified, and then a lot of people have said that You Don't Know What You Got reminds them of a Plus 44 song. So you have everything that the three collective members do well, and they're all put in on this album in different songs. But I think the album, an easy way to sum it up, is it's a bunch of different eras of Blink-182 put into one album. Speaking of the different eras of Blink-182, I think one of the songs on this album, Blink Wave, is a more kind of a dancey, punk, post-punk, whatever you want to call it, kind of a song, could easily have fit on 9. So even if you dismiss the last two albums and you don't think they're true, real Blink-182 albums, I feel like a song like Blink Wave, maybe not an ode to those albums, but it easily could have fit on 9, that lower half of 9, in my opinion. So you even have the last two albums of the Ska Era kind of having a little bit of influence on One More Time. Some other standouts for me are Bad News. I've seen a lot of people say that's one of their favorite songs off the album. It's instantly catchy, instantly stuck in my head. Dance With Me also. I'm not sure how I felt about that chorus when I first heard it, but, instantly stuck in my head, in a song that I've come back to and singing along just, randomly, whatever I'm doing throughout the day. One of the catchier songs on the album, and one that's definitely stuck with me, a week plus into the album's release. I do think the album is a little bit long. If the band would have cut out maybe 3 or 4 songs, it would have made the album a little bit more concise, but that's kind of nitpicking, honestly. Overall, I don't know if it's a hot take or anything, but I would say that One More Time just feels like Neighborhoods 2.0. If the Ska Era had never happened, those two albums did not exist, and we just went from Neighborhoods to One More Time, I honestly think people would just say, well, yeah, that's the natural progression. Neighborhood had some great songs on it. After Midnight, Up All Night, Wishing Well, Ghosts on the Dance Floor. And then you can, in my opinion, you can kind of hear some of that, the influences from that last album bleed into One More Time. Like I said, it's a little bit of, you get a little bit of everything from Blink on One More Time, but I would categorize it closer to Neighborhoods than, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket or Dude Ranch especially. I think it really fits into the second half of the band's career, and I think it's a good album. I don't think if you're a Blink-182 fan coming to this album that you're gonna hate it. You're either gonna love it or you're just gonna like it. I can't really see anybody who's a fan of pop punk or a fan of Blink coming to this album and saying, oh God, none of these are good, none of these songs, I'm never going to come back to any of them. If you didn't like California or 9, I think there's definitely something for you on One More Time. It's a great return to form from Blink-182, and it just feels good. I watched the interview that Blink-182 did with all 3 members, and they put it out recently, and I believe it was Mark Hoppus who said, this is what Blink-182 is. This is what Blink-182 feels like. Mark, Travis, and Tom, and when we're all together in a room, the music that we make is Blink-182, and I totally agree. What do you think of the brand new album from Blink-182, One More Time? Let me know in the comments. Please like and share the video, subscribe if you haven't, tell all your friends, and thanks for watching.